Hi, I'm Shirlaine from TSE Tuition, and today I'll be talking about arguments as opposed to techniques or devices in a persuasive article. In a persuasive piece of text, usually an opinion article of some sort, you will have to find arguments in it because it's an argument analysis essay that you have to write. So understandably, you have to find arguments in those articles. What some students get wrong in looking for these arguments is that sometimes they get confused between an argument and a technique or device. A really easy way of separating the two in your mind is an argument is what an author believes or what an author thinks is true, as opposed to the words and phrases that an author is using to express whatever argument that they're making. Most of the time, this is a pretty clear-cut distinction. If you're looking at things like statistics, quotes, reference to expert opinion, imagery, most of these things are pretty clear that this is a technique or device. It's a specific use of facts or evidence or careful choice of words in order to make the audience feel, think a certain way. Other techniques are slightly more difficult. A lot of appeals, for instance, are just ever so slightly a bit more tricky to differentiate between an argument and a technique or a device. Other things like anecdotes or personal anecdotes can be a little bit tricky as well for some students. A good way of thinking about it so that you don't get them confused is to think about an argument like, is this what the author thinks is true? So in the case of, say, an appeal, let's say it's an appeal to Australian culture, and the quote is something like, as Australians, we should be ashamed of the way we've treated our Indigenous fellow brothers and sisters. Let's say that's the quote. We can probably look at that phrase or that sentence and say, well, this is obviously an attempt to get the audience to feel something. It doesn't matter if you haven't figured out what we're supposed to be feeling, but you can kind of see that this is supposed to make us feel something or to think a particular way. So it's probably a technique rather than a main argument, which is what the author believes. A good way of nailing down exactly what an author believes is true or should be true in the article is to think about it like a PowerPoint slide, and we have that classic title box with the dot points down below. You want to look at the article and have a think about what would the author copy and paste, right, out of this section into the title box. Because that's a really good, succinct way of sort of getting your point across, right? What they believe is true. The government is doing a rubbish job, or, what's his name is a terrible politician, or, the path forward to clean energy is X, Y, and Z, etc., etc. So you want to think about it like that. If you're ever in doubt, look at the sentence or the phrase and just ask yourself, is this supposed to make me feel something or think a particular way? Or is this what the author really thinks is true or should be true? And if you ask yourself that, then generally I find that students are, they get it right most of the time. There are always going to be tricky bits, but, that's life. You're never going to find everything. You're always going to miss something. But I find that if we ask ourselves those questions, you can find you're mostly right most of the time. And that's pretty much as good as a guarantee you're going to get in English. So I hope that was helpful. As always, like and subscribe to our social media so you can get our latest tips and tricks to achieving your best in your English subject. And if you'd like to get some one-to-one tutoring, please contact us and we can send someone to you. Thanks for watching.